Good evening, HOB science class students. This is Miss Gwidt. We're doing chapter 12, lesson 1, populations and communities tonight. And this is a short video that's going to talk about living things in their environments. We have 3 essential questions. What does an organism get from its environment? What are the 2 parts of an organism's habitat? And how is an ecosystem organized? You should be able to answer all 3 at the end of this. All right, let's start with essential question 1. What does an organism get from its environment? First of all, you need to know that an organism is a living thing. Write that down. Let's see that if we know what we're talking about here. Is grass a living thing? Yeah, it sure is. How about this cute prairie dog? He's a living thing. Is this rock a living thing? No, sure is not. Make sure that you know the difference between a living and a non-living thing. What does an organism get from its environment? You need to know what a habitat is. A habitat, it's an environment that provides the things an organisms need to live, grow, and reproduce. It's kind of like your house. That's your habitat. What makes it uniquely you? Probably your bedroom. More on habitats. Take this tall forest, for example. You might think it's all the same habitat, but it's not. A bird that lives high up in the trees has its own habitat. It has more sun, warmer air, and a different food source. The worm that lives in the ground of this forest has less sun, cooler air, and a different food source. Though it's one forest, it's 2 different habitats for the bird and the worm. Okay, essential question number 2. What are the 2 parts of an organism's habitat? Biotic factors. Those are parts that are or were once living. This can be confusing. Let's practice. Grass, that's a biotic factor. It is living. Bacteria, biotic factor. It's also living. Trees, they're biotic. They're living. What about this? This is called scat. If you don't know what scat is, it's also known as poop. Believe it or not, that was once living. That's made of natural things. That's a biotic factor. All right, the second part is an abiotic factor. Those are non-living parts to an organism's habitat. That would include the sun, the temperature of the place, whether it's hot or cold, the amount of water or precipitation it receives, and the amount of oxygen. All 4 of these are abiotic factors. So you can see that living things and non-living things influence an organism's habitat. Okay, we're on to essential question number 3. How is an ecosystem organized? This is an upside-down pyramid. It starts from the smallest or individual thing and goes to the largest or broadest of things. It goes from organism, species, population, community, to ecosystem. Let's take a closer look. An ecosystem. That's all the populations that live in an area and all the abiotic and biotic factors in the area. So, for example, in this picture, the abiotic factors might be the sun and the soil and the temperature. The populations and the biotic factors would be the turtle, the crab, the fish, and maybe even the weeds. Those are all living things. So the ecosystem is the biggest thing. A community, that's all the different populations of living things. No more abiotic factors. That might include a fish, a turtle, seaweed, and any other living thing all living together. These are all different organisms in one community. Okay, populations. A population, all the members of a species living in a particular area. If you notice here, there are 3 different populations of fish. They're not the same kind, but they're all fish living together in the same area. Next is species. This is a little more confusing. A group of organisms that can mate with each other and produce offspring that can also mate and reproduce. Let's clarify. 2 fish of the same species could successfully mate and reproduce offspring. One fish of one species with another fish of another species could not reproduce and make offspring. Lastly is an organism, and we started here. An organism is a living thing. It could be a plant, it could be an animal. An example is this fish. Can you answer all three essential questions now? What does an organism get from its environment? What are the two parts of an organism's habitat? And how's an ecosystem organized? I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I'll see you tomorrow in class along with your assignment. Have a good night. Bye.